Number 12 is in.
Welcome to Cover One, the podcast. I am Russell Brown, episode 51. Alongside me, Rhode Island's finest, Tom Brady's long-lost son, Brad Kelly. Brad, how are we, my friend?
We are great. A little upset about Providence's seeding. We're going to get right into college basketball talk, by the way. A little upset about Providence seeding. Thought they should have been higher, but I'd like the matchup with A&M. So it should be a fun. I think they play Friday. Should be a fun day.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be a good thing. The brackets are out. Hopefully, you're doing your brackets. We should have totally did like a pool for Cover One and had all our fans join us. And I guess we could still do that. Maybe we'll drop something as a link to join us as a bracket pool type of deal. But yeah, Providence, they're a 10th seed playing a 7 seed Texas A&M, and if they win, odds are they'll be playing North Carolina. How do you feel about that?
I don't like that at all. They have lost to North Carolina 2 of the last 4 years. This will be the fifth straight tournament, and they've lost to Carolina 2 of the last 4. So it's looking like it's going to be 3 of the out of 5 that they lose to UNC.
Yeah, well, and at least you're not playing Duke in the Sweet 16 to get your hearts ripped out with the best team Izzo's ever had, and then you're not going to do anything with it. Just get ready for that, man.
Yeah, so this is probably – I would argue that this might be talent-wise the second best team PC has had in the last 5 years. So I don't think it'd be too big a deal if you lose in the second round in Carolina. But, yeah, I think Michigan State – I haven't won the title. I haven't won the national championship.
You're out of your mind, dude.
But I don't like it. Yeah, I don't like it because they'd have to go through potentially like Duke, Kansas, Villanova, and then the national championship game. So that's a murderer's row. So I don't know. It's going to be wide open this year. I'm excited for the whole thing. I think this could be a year where a Cinderella story might take the whole thing. It
could. I mean, what round does Virginia lose? Sweet 16 or maybe the round of 32? Do they lose to Kansas State or Creighton, you think?
No, I think Creighton wins that game. Kansas State's kind of reeling at the moment. Two of their 2 players that average more than 10 points are both hurt. So I think Creighton wins. I don't think Creighton is particularly that good. Seeing them play Providence 3 times this year, I think Virginia wins that one in the second round, and then they go against Kentucky and take an L in the Sweet 16.
So we're not putting much stock into Arizona, correct? Like you and I both agree on that, right? We're not being paid by Sean Miller, correct?
If none of that happened, I think Arizona could be a Final Four team. I do.
But they choke every year, man. They're like West Virginia.
DeAndre Ayton is a force, though. He's the best player they've had at Arizona, that Sean Miller's had at Arizona, on a pure talent basis. So I think that I would probably have him in the Final Four if it wasn't for all that stuff that's happened. But with that happening, they're probably a 1 win and then lose to Kentucky.
Yeah, probably. The name of my bracket, by the way, is paid by Sean Miller. So I was trying to do like this ad is paid for by, but it just didn't fit. There was too much. What's the final?
Cover One, the podcast is brought to you by
Sean Miller. Yeah. Oh, great, dude. I should totally get him in here for like a plug. That'd be great. Hey, Sean Miller, you want to be on our show? To not talk about football? And can you sweat in your white shirt, please? What's your Final Four looking like? I mean, I have
Michigan State. I'm very unhappy about having Michigan State, but I have them right there. Villanova, Kentucky, and North Carolina. Very boring Final Four, kind of the most boring 4. Like you add in like Duke. I mean, that's pretty much like the 5 teams you hear about every year. So
yeah,
a pretty boring one, but it's kind of just one of those years that I think it's going to be pretty crazy, but it's so hard to predict because I don't think there are any dominant teams.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it's not as boring as mine. I've got Kentucky, North Carolina, Villanova, and Duke, with Villanova playing Kentucky and Villanova winning it all. So we'll see. Let's get into the football stuff. I mean, we could go on and on about the brackets and everything else, but I don't want to waste everybody's time because they've probably already turned this off. We've got a great show for you. Free agency stuff we're getting into. We got some draft options for the Cardinals, the Ravens, and the Chargers. And then we've got Ben Allbright joining us later in the show. And it's going to be a really action-packed show with a ton of news, nuggets, draft stuff, all kinds of good stuff. But let's start at the top. Nate Solder signing with the Giants, 4-year deal. This is now officially a Patriots podcast. I'm just kidding. Bills Mafia, I will never do that to you. This is not a Patriots podcast, but I think that was one of the bigger deals of the day. Kirk Cousins going to Minnesota. It's not signed, but it seems like it's going to be a done deal. What do we do? What does your team do? What's the replacement at left tackle, man?
So, yeah, as far as Nate Solder goes, it's the highest paid contract of any left tackle in the league. So as far as being a Patriots fan, you don't blame him for doing that. That's something that, the Patriots probably set their price, never improved it. So that's, he went on to more money, which, you kind of have to respect. He plays a game that's very taxing on his body, go get paid.
Mm-hmm.
As far as replacements for the left tackle go in New England, they did draft Antonio Garcia in the 3rd round last year. A kid out of Troy, very, very athletic lineman, very well put together as far as, just like, he's not like there's no bad weight to him. But at the same time, he was a little bit light. He was only like 302, 303 pounds. And in his rookie season, had blood clots that held him out, that wasn't able to play a snap, and he lost like 35, 40 pounds.
Oh,
so
man.
I think that last year they drafted Garcia knowing that Solder had 1 year left on his deal, thinking that he might be the future left tackle. And that's a guy who, despite playing at Troy, I thought was a pretty good prospect. If you go back to look at his film against Clemson in 2016, it was very clean. I mean, he really, really looked like an NFL player against Clemson's defensive line, who was just full of NFL talent on defensive line. So I think that they really liked him, but it's gonna remain to be seen, because we don't know where he is along with back, trying to gain his weight back. Is he like healthy, his development and all that. So if he's not the answer, I think they're gonna be looking at a guy at pick 31. Probably a guy like Colton Miller out of UCLA, who we've talked about a little bit, and who kind of reminds us as Nate Solder as far as his body type and being a little bit raw as a pass protector goes.
Right. Well, I'm going to tell you, I liked Antonio Garcia coming out last year, but I just wrote about him over the last couple of days, studied a ton of film. That's Colton Miller out of UCLA. And I'm telling you, man, I think that's going to be their guy at 31. Trading back probably is going to be their top option. I wouldn't be surprised if they did it, but Colton Miller, UCLA, it's just a fit, dude. Playing left tackle, he's got 10 career starts as a right tackle, 13 career starts as a left tackle, more experience there, hips kind of tight. He's athletic as all hell because he killed the combine, but it doesn't always show on tape. Kick step is weird. His set foot is awkward. It doesn't really, it's just everything with his lower body just doesn't really gel yet, but I would not be surprised if that's their guy, man.
Yeah, definitely. And, I've wanted to go defensive back. I wanted the Patriots to go defensive back there. My number one guy has been Isaiah Oliver, but that was kind of with the being unaware of what was going to happen with Nate Solder. So now that we know that Nate Solder is for sure, out the door, that I think left tackle or tackle in general becomes a premium position, the premium need for the New England Patriots.
Right. Well, another need that is kind of happening for another team, and my team, the Detroit Lions. Eric Ebron cut today by the Lions. What do they do? What are they doing? Seriously, what are they doing? This is not a very good tight end class. And I'm not saying Eric Ebron's good by any means, but I think right now, if you're looking at tight end in the position, you're probably going to be getting, I think, somewhat of a little bit of a better production out of Ebron than you would out of any of the tight ends in this class for year one. And clearly they're looking down the line. Matt Patricia probably met with him, didn't really like it. They're obviously doing things kind of quote unquote the Patriot way, because they don't really care about the name of the player. They just want talented football players. They don't want superstars. They don't want divas. But what are some tight ends that they could be looking at? Because they got Darren Fells, they got Michael Roberts. They don't have, it's slim pickings for them.
As far as Ebron goes, this is a guy who's still pretty young. I think he's only 25, 26 years old.
Yeah, 25.
He's already been in the league for a few years. So I think it's an unfortunate situation. I think, like you said, his personality probably would be the number one thing that didn't fit. As far as the Lions go, they have a pick at pick 20, and they pick again at 51 and 82. I don't think that 20 is going to be a position where they go after a tight end. I think it'd be more likely to be in the second or the third round. And when it comes to that mid-second round, there's two guys who kind of are in that Ebron mold, as far as it's Mike Gesicki, if he lasts that long, which I think at this point might be a little bit of a surprise, but also Mark Andrews out of Oklahoma. Andrews is 6'5", 250, and he was a receiver for his first couple of years at Oklahoma before getting moved down to tight end. But even though he was receiver first, he was a willing blocker at tight end. They did put him in line, and he was a blocker in pass pro and in the run game. So he's not just a strictly receiver, but I think that receiving is definitely more of his strength. He's definitely not a very good blocker, his effort is high. And he's a guy who he's probably not the receiver, the jump ball rebounder type that Gesicki is, but he's very good with the ball in his hands. For a 6'5", 250-pounder, he's extremely elusive, kind of like the way Ebron is, with the ball. So I think as far as a natural replacement for him, I think Mark Andrews out of Oklahoma at pick 51 would be the guy.
I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't mind either one of them. I want them to go defense within, their first 2, maybe 3 picks, but really what they're doing is signing defensive players. So I wouldn't be surprised if they're looking to go maybe tight end and running back and add a little bit to the offense. It wouldn't be surprising to me if they went running back in round 1 and then tight end in round 2 and then defense for the rest of the draft. But personally, I would like to see, Vita Vea would be great at 20. Don't think he'll be there. Maurice Hurst, obviously I'd love that, but I don't really know what's kind of checking out with the heart issue right now. And if we're talking tight ends and we're going into round 2, maybe round 3, give me Ian Thomas, please. Let's just do the damn thing, right? Like, just do it. Just take him. I'll be happy. I'll get the jersey. I'll wear it for every podcast. He'll be scoring touchdowns. He'll be blocking people. I mean, he's thick, right? I mean, he's good.
He is thick. Thick season, as you like to say.
Thick season, baby.
I like Ian Thomas. I think he's more of a guy that they could target at pick 82. And I think that's about the right range for him. I think that he's pretty well rounded. I think he's going to have a lot of learning to do because he is still raw. He's only had 1 season as a starter at the collegiate level. And a lot of that was spent at H-back as opposed to kind of the inline tight end. So I think that he is probably a year away from being a producer, whereas a guy like Gesicki or Andrews are probably year 1 producers because they're more receiver types, and Goddard is so polished that he's probably year 1 producers as well.
Right. Well, I don't think they'll be in the market for Goddard, but we'll see, or Goddard, however you say his name. But moving on from the Lions, I mean, I would love Ian Thomas as a Lion. It's funny you say, pick 82. I think that's a funny spot for tight end number 1, but that's a topic for a different day. Joe Thomas, he retires from the Browns today. That's official. I believe Chris Hubbard, they just recently signed. Sounds like he could be looking at maybe right tackle, though. Left tackle, I mean, they got pick 1, pick 4. Moving out of pick 4 seems like an option. Maybe Buffalo calls at 12, and we'll get into Buffalo and some of their things. Don't worry, Bills Mafia. But is Connor Williams the guy? I mean, do you think they take Connor Williams at 4? Or do you think they move down some and take him then?
I think moving down is definitely from pick 4 is definitely going to be their number 1 option because I think teams are going to, want to move up, especially if two. So say the top 4 picks, 2 of them are quarterbacks, and then 1 of them is not a quarterback, and kind of like that QB3 is available at pick 4. I think a lot of teams are going to want to move up, including the Bills from pick 12, maybe the Jets from pick 6, or even the Cardinals. So if they are able to move down and say they move down to pick 12. They could kind of get like a king's ransom, just a money chest of picks, and then also be able to take a guy like Connor Williams or who I would take, Mike McGlinchey, at that pick 12, where that old Bengal spot. So yeah. I think that's definitely an option. If they move down, then they should be targeting a tackle with their second pick.
Right. I mean, I think definitely a tackle in there somewhere is what they need to do. I mean, they still have 5 picks in the top 64. They should have no issue looking at an offensive tackle somewhere in this draft. Which one they do, which one they take, I don't know. I would think, Mike McGlinchey obviously would be on their board. I think he's better suited as a right tackle just because it was his natural position. He looked better there. But again, I get it. Everything I watched of him as far as this past year was left tackle because that's what he played. And I was still impressed with him. But it'll be interesting to see what they do. I mean, maybe they look at Colton Miller. Maybe they look at maybe they're a team that trades up into round 1 with New England, and then they take Colt Miller. You never know. I mean, they had 3 first-round picks last year. Wouldn't be surprising if they did it this year. Speaking of offensive linemen, Justin Pugh, he is visiting the Arizona Cardinals, the former Giants offensive guard, so it'll be interesting to see what happens with him. But speaking of the Cardinals, and we'll get into them with our draft options in a moment, the Honey Badger, he was recently cut. So that'll be interesting to see where he goes. I mean, I don't know if the Jets are the best fit for him, but that was kind of the team I was reading about this this morning that he was going to go there for the fact that, money's obviously on the table for him. And if I read it correctly, he's got a child with Todd Bowles' stepdaughter. So there's obviously that connection from Arizona. How do you think that plays out?
Well, first things as far as the Cardinals go is I think Budda Baker becomes their
Yeah,
kind of definitely their guy that as a starter. Though they could still be looking for kind of more of a free safety. That guy they have Ford as I think is their free safety. So as far as where he goes, my initial thought was maybe the Saints because he went to LSU, so he's gonna be familiar with that area. And then maybe like you said with the Jets because of his connection with Todd Bowles. I think that he could be a guy that he might not necessarily take the biggest contract because he is good. I think he still is owed money from the Cardinals, at least a decent sum of it. So he's going to be a guy who might not take the biggest deal because he already is kind of getting a decent amount of money. So he's kind of wide open as far as it's kind of going to be more based off fit and the potential to win games.
Right. Well, I promised Bills Mafia we're going to talk about him, so let's talk about him. A.J. McCarron signed to a 2-year deal 8 minutes before we started the show. So there's the bridge quarterback that everybody was hoping for. I think it's a good deal. I think on the surface of everything, 2 years probably not going to cost you an arm and a leg. You got a veteran backup you think you could potentially have as a starter down the line. We've got some content on him on cover1.net, so obviously you need to check it out. Eric did a great job with that. I think they're putting themselves in position. They traded away Cordy Glenn for the 12th pick of the draft to Cincinnati. Cincinnati trades back. They get Cordy Glenn and the 21st overall pick. So now they're sitting there, the Buffalo Bills, at 12 and 22. They still have 5 picks in the top 65. They just add A.J. McCarron. They've got to be moving up to get a quarterback, right? I mean, that's got to be the move.
Yeah, I think it definitely is the move. They're going to be looking to move into the top 4 to take a quarterback. If we think that Darnold is the first pick, then looking past him, there's going to be Rosen and there's going to be Allen, there's going to be Mayfield. As far as that bridge QB goes, I'm only really comfortable with that if my choice is Allen, because I think that Mayfield and Rosen, I think Rosen probably is the most pro-ready player, most pro-ready quarterback in the class. And Mayfield is a fifth-year senior who is older than Deshaun Kaiser. So, if he's not starting day one, is he really ever going to start for you? I'm not exactly sure. I definitely think he's more talented than McCarron. So if the Bills move up and they have A.J. McCarron as a quarterback and Mayfield sitting behind him, I'm not confident in how they project with Mayfield. If McCarron is kind of a backup and still a mentor to Mayfield or Rosen or Allen, then I kind of like that pickup for him.
Yeah, kind of what I'm thinking is just the Giants trading down. I think with how today went, you have Nate Solder, you got a 4-year deal out of it. You traded a 4th and a 6th for Alec Ogletree. You go from having, I believe they were sitting at 7 picks. I think they have 5 picks now, if I remember correctly. And with that, I mean, you don't have a very good offensive line. You add Solder, which is great, but you lost your center in Weston Richburg. He goes to San Francisco. You have Justin Pugh, like we mentioned, visiting Arizona. He could obviously come back, but he's going to be getting some money because Andrew Norwell just recently signed with Jacksonville, highest paid left guard in the league right now. So, I mean, the price tag is just going to keep going up. And I'm not saying Justin Pugh is going to get Norwell money, but he's going to get a decent amount of change. So I think with this offense, the way it is, they need to be looking at the future. And yes, passing on a quarterback is going to be hard for them to do and passing on Rosen. But you're also thinking, okay, if I get a quarterback, he's going to be sitting behind Eli because you're going to play Eli unless they find a way to move him, and I don't see them moving Eli. So I think 12-2 is the spot for Buffalo. I think that's the most realistic thing that I think we'll see because of the connection with Bean and Gettleman, and I think moving up to 2 ensures that you're going to get Josh Allen clearly because I think Darnold goes 1, and now you get Josh Allen. You're going to sit behind him for a year, or he's going to sit behind McCarron for a year, and I don't know if that's the guy I mean, I know for a fact that's not the guy I want, but I don't know if, moving back from 2 to 12 gets exactly what the Giants are looking for in the draft. I mean, I don't think Saquon Barkley is going to fall that far.
Definitely not. I don't think he falls to the top 10. It's kind of weird with the Bills, just in the sense that if they do move up and take Josh Allen, they move all the way up from pick 21 all the way up to say pick number 2 or pick number 3 to take Allen,
Yeah.
he has to be the guy moving forward. And when it comes to the Giant, just because that's so much draft capital to give up to get a guy, he has to develop properly, or that's I think that might be like kind of the beginning of the end for Sean McDermott. And I know that's a little premature, but to give up that much, that's going to catch up to you if that quarterback doesn't pan out. Now, if it does pan out, that's okay. If you're the Texans and you saw the immediate impact that Deshaun Watson can give you, then it's fine. That then you're going to be safe. But I think that has to pan out. You have to be sure about that. You have to be sure about that guy as a prospect.
Right. Well, and the thing too is, and like, here's my problem with it is, like, you still have 5 picks in the like we've said, 5 picks in the top 65, but you're going to be giving away so much capital to get into that top 5 discussion. And if you're talking about top 3, you're going to be giving up even more. And when you do that, you look at that team last year. Their leading receiver for Buffalo, it was like Deontay Thompson. No, it was Zay Jones as far as yardage goes, but it was only like 400 yards. Like, yeah, you have Calvin Benjamin, but who really knows what he is after what he's been going through with his knee? Zay Jones, he's coming back after a torn labrum. So where are these guys health-wise? I don't know. And what's behind them? There's not much. So, like, yeah, Tyrod Taylor made it work, but do I trust A.J. McCarron to make it work? Do I trust, Josh Allen to make it work? I don't know. You got Charles Clay, but he's been dinged up too. And you got Shady McCoy, who's now on the wrong side of 30 at this point. So it's like, just this team is, I don't know if they're making the right move to go get a quarterback. I mean, this guy's got to be like generational talent that's going to be here for 10 years, and I don't know if that's going to be the case for them. So, and I think the most reasonable spot is just because, 12-2, because of the connection between Bean and Gettleman, but also because the Giants have so many holes to fill, from their secondary. Right now, Eli Apple and Janoris Jenkins are your corners. It's not terrible, but moving back and getting some picks, and if you added Denzel Ward at 12, that'd be perfect for them. And you look at their linebacker spot. Yeah, you got Ogletree, but what's behind Ogletree? Nothing. What's next to him? Not much. I mean, it's still thin all the way across the board for them. So, I just constantly see that connection, and I think with the Bills, they want to make sure that if they get to 2, they're getting Allen, because it seems like that's going to be their guy. And because you don't know what the Jets are doing too. Like, the Jets could be trading up from 6-3 to get with the Colts.
Right. And even the Broncos at 5, or even the Cardinals maybe would be able to move up. I think they have pick 15. So it's going to be a bidding war. I think it definitely comes down to that, and whoever is the team that does move up is probably going to have to overpay slightly, maybe an extra pick in like this year or next year in order to do it. So it's definitely going to be a move that you're going to have to give up a ton of draft capital to pull off, or maybe even players from your roster. So it's like, that has to work out for you as a coaching staff. That pick has to work out for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's move forward with the Cardinals. You brought them up again. They're on our draft options to start at pick 15. We left off with the Packers at 14 and the Cardinals at 15. Look, this team's got 4 picks. We were talking about it before the show. They have 4 picks in this draft. That is pathetic. It's just so bad. 15, 47, 79, and 143. They just signed Sam Bradford. They added Mike Glennon. Not the best quarterback room, if you're asking me. You would have to think quarterback's on their radar at 15, but maybe not. What do they do?
They're kind of a team that have a ton of needs. They could look at that offensive line, quarterback, safety. I think that they're going to be all over the place. I think they need a talent influx at pretty much every position. We were kind of joking around that Bruce Arians left them in such shambles.
Yeah.
It's like, I think it's like kind of truly that is. I think they could be looking at pick 15, a Connor Williams or Mike McGlinchey. They could be looking at if Derwin James falls that far at pick 15. They're kind of wide open. I think that they have so many needs at this point that they could just take best player available.
Yeah. Well, and with this team and the way it's looking, 15, 47, 79, 143. I would think going, offensive tackle or safety would probably be your safest bet at 15. I don't see them moving up at this point now because, they just don't have the draft capital that I initially had thought. I was not expecting to see 4 picks on the board. And so with that, if they're going to be moving up from 15, they're going to have to give up a ton for next year, and then they're going to be in the same exact boat again. So honestly, staying at 15 is probably their best bet. Going O tackle or going safety is probably a good idea, but What about Calvin Ridley? I mean, seriously. I mean, I know you're not the biggest fan of him. You got Dante Pettis. I know you're going to suggest waiting till 47 or 79 and getting, Bayshawn Hamilton or getting Pettis or doing something like that. And I agree with you, but I mean, Calvin Ridley, dude, he's there. We know he's going to go in the first round. We know that's going to happen. So, I mean, realistically, could he be a guy for them at 15?
I think he's definitely an option because it is going to be a need because Larry Fitzgerald is getting up there. John Brown just signed with the Ravens. So they're kind of looking at like past Larry Fitzgerald. They have Jerron Brown. Their tight ends aren't particularly good receivers. So it could be an option. But like you said, I think, waiting until 47 or even the third round would be the better move. I think that the difference between a guy like Calvin Ridley or whoever it is in the first round, whoever you think the best, or even DJ Moore, whoever the best receiver you think is, the difference between them and a guy you get in the third is not as great as the difference between a tackle in the first and the third or a safety in the first and the third. So I think as far as that goes, that definitely the waiting on a receiver until the second or third round is the better move, and focusing on tackle or safety is the right move.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I didn't think they were going to take Hassan Reddick last year, and they did. I mean, realistically, I thought they were going to get, Pat Mahomes or Deshaun Watson, and neither one of them were there. And I think that's why they took Reddick, because I'm assuming he was probably the next best player on the board. So, I mean, it'll be interesting to see what happens with that team. But it's so like, I feel bad for Patrick Peterson because like this team was so good. And I feel bad for Larry Fitzgerald, too, because he's been there for so long. But both these guys have been there like their entire careers, and it's just ending so bad for them. Like Fitzgerald, yeah, I appreciate him coming back, but like you're not going to the playoffs, dude. I'm sorry. Like that's not happening for this team. With the way this looks, they're not like – I don't believe in Sam Bradford. I don't believe in Mike Glennon to get this team 10 wins because that NFC is going to be so tough this year.
Oh, definitely. The NFC is top to bottom is going to be tough. I think that as far as that goes, if Sam Bradford is able to stay healthy, I think he is a viable starter. I think he's good, or I think he's above average at least. And if they're able to take Mike McGlinchey and they get a safety in the second round or a receiver in the third round, something like that, I think that they're a team who could still compete. You look at their front seven, there's still a bunch of talent there. They have Hassan Reddick, Carlos Dansby, Deion Buchanan, Chandler Jones. They have Robert Nkemdiche, and then they have Patrick Pearson and Budda Baker on the back end. I think that there's a decent amount of talent there, but the issue is going to be, can they protect their quarterback, and can their quarterback get it to their, which is currently a below average receiving core. I know David Johnson's good, but if your quarterback can't get the ball out because he's getting sacked, and when he does get it out, he's throwing it to below average receivers, there's going to be issues with their offense. So I think that if they hit on the right players in the draft, this is like obviously like this would be best case scenario. Like if they hit on like 2 or 3 good players in the draft and Bradford's able to stay healthy, they could be an 8-win team again. Or I think did they win 7 this past year? I can't remember. But either way, they could be kind of that 7, 8, 9-win team. But I don't see them getting to 10, 11 wins in the NFC.
They were 8-8 this past year. So like, I mean, that's staying the same. You're going to be picking 15 again. I mean, at that point, and then you're not putting yourself in position to get a younger quarterback. Like you're like they're just not doing themselves any favors unless Lamar Jackson or Mason Rudolph's their guy at 15 or 47. And I'd be shocked. I'd be shocked that either one of them is available at 47, to be honest. So I don't know. They're a team that, man, like breaking this down, like this is the first time we broke them down. And I'm looking at it and I'm just like, man, they're going to be worse. Like it's going to be bad. They're just going to be bad. Like no matter what we slot them at 15 and then 47 and so on, like, yeah, they could be great players, but I don't think it's going to reflect much in the win-loss column just because that quarterback position is so crucial. So, and I don't trust Sam Bradford enough. I don't trust Mike Glennon at all. So, I mean, I don't know. We'll see what happens with them, but I think, offensive tackles, safety is obviously an option for them too, with the Honey Badger gone. And I know they got Budda Baker, but they could always be looking at somebody like Derwin James if he's there. So it'll be fun to see what they do, but it's going to be, I could see them making some head scratching decisions. So let's move forward with the Baltimore Ravens. They got 16, 52, 83, 114, 145, 176, and 212. So they got more than 4 picks. They got 7. Pick 16, what are they doing? They go in receiver now. They're adding guys like Ryan Grant. They're adding John Brown. They're cutting Jeremy Maclin. They're making some surprise moves, kind of just off the wall moves a little bit. Do they still go receiver at 16?
I think that's still definitely an option because, kind of like you said, they added Ryan Grant and they overpaid for him. Let's start with that.
Yeah.
They
Oh my
definitely
God.
overpaid. Like that might be the worst contract I've seen so far. Maybe actually Sam Bradford's a little bit worse. But they overpaid, and then they got John Brown, but then they cut Jeremy Maclin. So did they really get any better at the receiver position? I don't think so. It's kind of just they kind of stayed the same, um, because Grant and Brown, I think they're both talented, but they're kind of just a little bit above average players. They're not game changers in my opinion. Brown might be able to be if he's healthy, but I think wide receiver is still going to be a need for them. I don't necessarily think they go to pick 16, but if they do, like we've said, Calvin Ridley, DJ Moore, probably going to be the two guys that they target at that spot. They're another
Yeah.
team though that I think if they wait until pick 52 or wait until pick 83, that's going to be the better spot for them to take a receiver.
Right. Yeah, I mean, they seem like a team that's probably going to go. They just seem like a team that's going to go defense first. I think if Derwin James is there, they're going to obviously take him. If there's a corner there, Josh Jackson, Denzel Ward, one of those two guys, I could see them taking one of them because I know Jimmy Smith's. I think he's suspended to start the year, and the depth behind him isn't very good. So it'll be. I think corner would be probably the ideal thing for them. I think probably their top need, in my personal opinion. And if not that, maybe they look at Marcus Davenport. Maybe they look at some type of stand-up edge rusher, would you think, to kind of replace Terrell Suggs? I know they got Tim Williams and stuff, but I'm not putting too much stock into that.
Well, when it comes to corner, they did draft Marlon Humphrey last season. I think kind of
Yes.
to be a guy move in opposite of Jimmy Smith and Brandon Carr. I think is still in a contract. So I think that corner, as far as the first round goes, since they just used a first rounder on a corner, probably won't.
Not double dipping?
Yeah, I don't. I think if they do take one, it'll probably be in the second or third, maybe a little bit later. But as far as the edge rusher goes, I think that could definitely be an option. Like you said about Tim Williams, though, he barely played, I don't think. And then Terrell Suggs is getting up there in age. I think he might only have 1 year left on his deal. So that could definitely be an option, and that could kind of be the spot for maybe Harold Landry. We've talked about him in the middle of the first. Marcus Davenport, type of range.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the roster right now as far as like the on spot rack as far as the money that's involved, and like, yeah, they've got Marlon Humphrey, but Brandon Carr is $7 million. I don't think he's there's $7 million, but his contract's all red right now. It's in red writing, so I don't know what that means. I think that means he got cut. And then you got Jimmy Smith at $15.5 million. So he's either going to have to take a pay cut or he could be traded. I wouldn't be surprised at that because he's 31. So, man, the Ravens are just he's 29. I'm sorry. Jimmy Smith's 29. I feel like he's been playing forever.
Yeah, I remember him. Where did he go? Colorado, Wake Forest, something like that.
Colorado.
Colorado. Where is that, like black and gold?
Yeah.
The fact that I can remember it probably speaks to the fact that he has been around for a few years. But he's been a talented guy. I think it was a first round pick. He came in, and I think he struggled the first 2 years of his career, but he really figured it out, and that talent just pretty much took over. I think he's a top flight. I think he's a CB1 in the NFL for sure. And the way Marlon Humphrey, I think, looked coming out of Alabama and then looked in his rookie season, I think they have a good corner combination. I love Eric Weddle at safety. So I think secondary-wise, and then Brandon Carr signed like a big deal last year. He was on contract for 4 or 5 seasons.
Yeah, I got it up. He's the one that's 31, and he's got he's got option deal. Like, so this year's an option, 2019 and 2020 is an option. But if he is a potential out for 2018, he's $4.5 million against the cap. So they're better to keep him, and then if they want to get rid of him the following year, then it's only $2 million on the dead cap. So odds are they're going to keep him. So.
Yeah, so I think as far as the secondary goes, I think that's more of a day two.
Yeah.
A day two target. Definitely wide receiver in day one. Could be a target, or even like the offensive line. Or even maybe, they could surprise someone and take a running back if Darius Geis is there. I don't see what could stop them from taking Darius Geis. I think he'd be a huge help.
Yeah.
Especially in the offense that Harbaugh likes to run, kind of the same way that his brother ran it in San Francisco when he had Frank Gore.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that could be also be an option in round one.
Yeah, and don't sleep on Isaiah Wynn either. I mean, he could be a potential fit for them as a right guard. I think Marshall Yanda plays both right and left guard, and I don't think he'd have a problem playing left guard if Isaiah Wynn played right guard. Because, I mean, when he was playing right guard in Mobile, he was crushing it. So I wouldn't be surprised if that was the pick at 16 because he's that good. Let's move forward with the Chargers, though. They're at 17, 48, 84, 115, 146, and 177. Phillip Rivers nearing the end. I mean, do they look at potentially getting a guy like Lamar Jackson or Mason Rudolph at 17?
I don't think that this is the spot for them to take a QB. You know, I've mentioned that I think the Giants would be crazy not to take a quarterback because they're at pick 2. Mm-hmm. And him and Rivers and Eli are in the same year. So wouldn't you kind of think that you know, it'll probably be the year for the Chargers to take a quarterback? Well, I think that Rivers probably has aged a little bit better, probably stemming from the fact that he, you know, sat for like 2.5 years. So I think he still has some more years ahead of him. So I don't think that necessarily are going to be looking at a quarterback in the first round. And they also got Cardinals Jones a few years ago. Who knows how he has developed. You know, we haven't really been able to see him. But I think as far as QB goes, it's not really what they're going to be looking for. I think more so they're kind of probably looking at secondary. You know, they have Casey Hayward. Is Casey Hayward still in a contract?
Yeah, they re-signed him to a big-time deal.
They did? Okay. And Jason Verrett, and they even drafted Desmond King last year. So as far as corners go, they might be pretty set, but I think safety, you know, we've mentioned Derwin James three times now, but I think that he might be their like top target, and they could even be a team that could be a candidate to move up a few picks to jump in front of those teams. You know, like we said, Arizona, Baltimore to scoop up Derwin James.
Yeah, that's been my pick for them in my mock draft that I did after the combine. I think Derwin James would be a great fit for them. Trey Boston has not been re-signed, so I mean they obviously have a need for it, and I think he'd be a really good fit for them. They like to draft defense. It seems like in the first round. I will say, you know, offensive tackle wise, like yeah, they've got Russell Okung, who's $15 million against the cap. But then at right tackle, they've got Joe Barksdale, who's only $5.7 million against the cap. And he's 29. He's doing just fine. And he's got another year left on his deal. So I don't know if they go offensive tackle, but I mean, Mike McGlinchey could be there and be a nice option for them to, you know, maybe sit behind Barksdale for a year and then see what happens. But, I mean, dude, I know like not taking a quarterback in round 1 is on the table for them, but I mean, it seems like it could happen. Like I feel like it could happen because you have a need for the quarterback position to have a nice backup. And I know you got Cardinals Jones and everything else, but like I'm not putting too much stock into that. If I got a shot to take Lamar Jackson or Mason Rudolph, especially Lamar Jackson, I'm gonna take him. Like I'm gonna take him. I'm gonna have him sit for a year anyways. And like you have Phillip Rivers, you're gonna have him for the whole year. This could be the last year. Why not just do it? First round, take them. Because they were like very close to being a playoff team. You know what I mean? And at 36, Phillip Rivers is not going to be around forever. It would be shocking, but I would not be surprised if Lamar Jackson was their guy.
I think them being close to being a playoff team is kind of working against that because maybe they are a player or two or a free agent or two away from becoming a Super Bowl contender because they have the quarterback to do it. I really like what Anthony Lynn did in his initial season as head coach. I like the fact that they drafted Forrest Lamp. They have Dan Feeney to play on the interior. I think Okung is a good tackle. I like Mike Williams if he's able to come back from injury. I like Keenan Allen. Melvin Gordon's a stud. Hunter Henry is a good receiving tight end. And Gates is still I don't know how, but he's still playing pretty well. So I think as far as the offense goes, I think that they have a lot of pieces, and maybe they are only one player away from becoming, you know, maybe one player on the other side of the ball away from becoming a serious contender in the AFC. And if you look at their division, I don't think the Broncos are very good. I think the Chiefs, they're going to be very fun, but we don't really know as far as Patrick Mahomes goes.
Like, is he going to win them football games? I don't know.
We don't know. And then the Raiders are kind of like stuck in the mud. Who knows what Gruden does, but it's going to be his first year back. Derek Carr, you know, he's kind of been up and down in his career. So their division is sort of a little bit wide open. So I think maybe they're going to try to go all, quote unquote, all in and try to get like one last run and like not use that first round pick on a QB and try to use it as on a different position to try to stack up their roster for one more go at it for Phillip Rivers.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's probably the smartest thing to do. And if Derwin James is not on the board, really what I'm saying is if Derwin James is not on the board, then that's your guy. You know what I mean? Like, go get the quarterback. Just Just don't even hesitate. Just go with it. Like, don't force your hand at another position unless it's like Isaiah Wynn, unless it's Mike McGlinchey offensively. And if we're talking defense, if maybe you find a defensive tackle like Mo Hurst or Vita Vea, maybe they're on the board, and then you take that guy because they'll contribute right away. But other than that, like, I feel like the guys that you would be going after anyways, they're not going to really play much anyways because every single position for them is pretty solid. I mean, maybe Rashaan Evans to play linebacker for them out of Alabama, that'd be a nice fit. But, I mean, I don't know, man. I feel like if every need on your team is there and you're good, maybe you just go out and get the quarterback. So that's what I'm saying if Derwin James is off the board. But if he's on the board, that's their guy. If they got to trade up and get him, makes sense to do it. Maybe trade back and then you take Lamar or something. I don't know. I mean, I don't feel like Baker, Josh Allen, Josh Rosen, or Sam Darnold would be there for them to even be like, oh, well, we got to take this guy. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, I think they're all gone in the top 10.
Yeah, I do too. I really do. I think we'll see 4 quarterbacks probably within the top 6 picks, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you would think Cleveland at 1, then the Bills, and then you would have Denver and then the Jets, right? So,
right, and even if the Giants don't take a QB, they might trade out of it, and then if the Browns at 4, I think it's almost to the point where they're guaranteed to trade out of it for a team to move up to take it. So I think there could be 4 quarterbacks in the top 5.
Yeah. Well, and it'll be interesting too because they just signed Carlos Hyde, and it's like, okay, well, you just signed Carlos Hyde. I don't think that means you're going to go out and get Saquon Barkley at 4. Maybe they go Sam Darnold and then Bradley Chubb at 4. I don't know. It'll be interesting, but the Cleveland is like, the stuff they're doing is just so mind-boggling. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Draft night is going to be so much fun.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about you you did something fun today, and you talked on Midday 180 in Tennessee, Nashville, correct?
That's correct.
So we both are. You have gotten your shot now. You did pretty well. You got an A- from all of them. I give you an A+. You're my co-host. I'm going to show you love. Right now the votes are in, and they're still tailing in. I'll pull those up. But tell us a little bit about your time on Midday 180, man.
I thought it went well. One of there's three hosts. One of them said that he graded me. So right after you got the phone, they immediately grade you. So I had their live stream up on my computer on mute, and then as soon as I got the phone, I turned that on. There was a little bit of a delay, so I heard the very back end of my interview, and then I heard them grade me right away. And one of them gave me an A-, and 2 gave me a B-, which I'm really okay with. I'm the 3rd contestant to go. There are 15 total contestants. I look forward to hearing you. But of the 3, I think I was the only one who's gotten an A so far. I don't know what exactly that means or how much stock was into their Twitter poll, but I think that's pretty encouraging. 4 contestants move on to the second round. So hopefully I'm in that 4. Hopefully you're in that 4. As far as the grade goes, if you go to the @midday180 Twitter page, @MIDDAY180, or just go to my Twitter page. I posted it a few times. Go on, please give me an A. If you give me a B, I understand. Please don't give me a C or a D. But I also posted the audio. So if you want to hear it, it's quick. It's only about maybe 12, 14 minutes of the interview. That if you want to listen to the audio before you grade me, that's fine. That's fair. I appreciate that. But please help me out, and hopefully Russ and I can move on to the second round of this contest. Yeah,
it's still early. I mean, you were on, 7 hours ago, 8 hours ago. And, I mean, again, you did great. And your grade right now, 508 votes. You got 51% A, 28% B, 9% C, and 12% D. And you're crushing it. And then our colleague, Ben Solak, he finished with an A, 38%. He got 31% B, 15% C, and 16% D, 735 votes. So I'm sure you're going to get a couple more C's and D's in there, just letting you know, preparing you for the worst. But I think you did great. I think you got an A. Yeah, I'll be on the 23rd, so it'll be interesting to see what happens with me. I got to stop saying that. I say this is interesting way too much. I think that's going to be my New Year's resolution, just to stop saying that, because I've said it 17 times in the last 10 minutes. Yeah, but I'll be on the 23rd. So we'll see what happens. You did great though, so good job, man. Proud of you, man. What's coming up for the future? What do you got working on? I mean, I saw you drop some stuff. So what's coming out on Cover One?
Well, I have been working on grading, finishing out grades for tight ends in the corners. So I'll probably have something written up about that. I've recently published the why it's a good idea to take a running back in the first round article that can be found at cover1.net. Someone, hint, hint, Eric, posted it to Brown's Reddit, and they lost their minds, thinking that I should. I was suggesting that Saquon Barkley should be the pick at number one. They absolutely went bonkers. There was like 70-something comments, and a lot of them were negative, a lot of them were argumentative, and they just seem – I think they need to spend less time on Reddit, but I think that they thought that I was suggesting that Barkley should definitely be the pick at one, and I'm not suggesting that. I just think it's a good idea to take a running back in the first round, and I think if they saw the pictures attached to the article, they would have understood that. But yeah, that's up on cover1.net, so go ahead and take a look at that, and then I'll probably have something about maybe making the case for Isaiah Oliver as CB1 coming up in the future.
Nice. Looking forward to it. Good work as always, my man. I've got the Dorrance Armstrong piece that just dropped yesterday, and then Colton Miller will be out as well. So scouting reports are coming from me, draft options as well throughout the entire draft, and then the week of the NFL draft, I'll have my final mock draft. So tons of fun stuff always coming to cover1.net, but I do need to let you know, make sure you go to the App Store and you need to download Cover One, our app. You can do it on Google Play, your Android device, whatever it is, smartphone. If you got the App Store for the iPhone, obviously you should, and you need to download that. So check it out because you can get the push notifications. You get all our content all the time on your phone, all in one place. It's great. So I've got it on my phone. I know Brad's got it on his phone. It's a fantastic app to have because rather than just going to your browser, searching, waiting, you just pull up the app and it's all right there. So it's fantastic. But we're going to be going and shifting gears over to Benjamin Allbright, who's going to join us for an interview. And before we do, I need to let you know Cover One, the podcast, is brought to you by First Down Playbook. First Down Playbook is the #1 playbook resource for football coaches with over 30,000 plays. First Down Playbook is a database of youth, high school, and flag football plays, color-coded with coaching points for every position on every play. Check it out today at firstdownplaybook.com. That's First Down Playbook, one place, all the football. All right, and joining us now, Benjamin Allbright, the greatest of all time is what he wanted me to introduce him as. Ben, how we doing, man?
Well, it was really a poll question. It was more, am I the greatest or the greatest ever, and then leave those two poll options up.
I'll let Brad answer that one. Brad, is he the greatest ever?
Yes.
Well,
Neither.
we got neither. Ben, I appreciate you coming on with us, man. Free agency, crazy time, as you know. I mean, I really want to start at the top. Kirk Cousins, obviously the biggest kind of domino, the biggest chip out there. Everything's pointing to Minnesota, guaranteed deal. What's the latest on that? I mean, I don't think it's been fully made official, but I mean, is that kind of the done deal?
It's not signed, but it's a done deal, and it's been a done deal for weeks. I know that there have been reporters out there cautioning that it's not done and all this other stuff, but I put it out at the end of January. It's done. It's been done, and there's absolutely no worry to it not happening.
Okay. Now, with that, I mean, I got to ask, why Minnesota? I mean, I get it, like guaranteed money. Obviously, money talks, but with that, I mean, you got teams like the New York Jets who have a ton of salary cap space. You've got Cleveland. And I get it, probably wanting to go to a winner. I mean, is that really what it comes down to? He wants to win. He wants to win now?
Yeah, it's a legacy thing. It's about winning. It's not all about money. I mean, the Jets or the Broncos could have arbitrarily offered, in the same ballpark in terms of money. The Jets a few dollars more, but what's a few dollars when you have a shot at a ring and immortality?
Yeah.
It's the difference between being Tom Brady and being. I'm trying to think of a mercenary quarterback that went around the league that cashed in. Sam Bradford. Made a lot of money, but Sam Bradford's never going to be confused for a great quarterback, So he has the opportunity to kind of try to win something and maybe cement his legacy and still cash in. And I think that's kind of what he's going for.
Absolutely.
Ben, as far as the other teams that have missed out on QBs, you just mentioned a few of them, like Denver, like the Jets. Does for Denver, does getting Case Keenum change their their options at pick 5?
No, it doesn't change anything at all. Case Keenum is kind of just a guy. To be honest with you, Kirk Cousins is kind of just a guy, but he's played it very well. He's going to cash in on that. I don't think the difference between Case Keenum and Kirk Cousins is worth $10 million a year. I don't think there's going to be a significant productivity difference there, but we'll see. But no, it definitely does not take the Broncos out of running for a quarterback there at 5.
What about the Jets at pick 6?
No, not them either, even though they signed McCown and Bridgewater. I spoke to some Jet sourcing, late last night, and they said basically, no, it doesn't take us out of the running. We had to get a talent infusion. We don't have a viable starter on the roster, which tells you all you need to know about Christian Hackenberg, Bryce Petty, and Joel Stave.
With the Jets, I mean, they brought in Josh McCown, bringing him back at a 1-year, $10 million deal. And from my understanding, it's kind of a guaranteed he's going to be the starter type of thing. I know, obviously, drafting a QB is very much on the table for them at 6. Who do you think is going to be the guy when training camp rolls around? Will it be McCown as the starter, or do you think it'll be Bridgewater?
I think it'll be McCown because he has a jump on the playbook, and he has experience with those receivers, and then he's got more recent playing experience. So speed of the game's not going to be an issue. Teddy's been out of it for a while. He doesn't know this playbook. He doesn't have any chemistry with these guys. So he's got a steeper curve to go through. Teddy's going to get more money on his deal, but I don't know that anybody's guaranteed anything. The best man's good for the job is going to win. I think that'll be Josh, but we'll see how it goes.
Right. Now, before we even got on the air with you, Trevor Siemian was just recently traded from Denver to Minnesota. What's the latest on that?
It's going to be Denver sending a draft pick this year to Minnesota with Trevor for a draft pick next year. And I think it's a conditional 6 with the opportunity for it to move up as high as a 4th if Trevor were to start like every game and all that kind of nonsense, which won't happen.
Yeah.
So, as far as that goes, you can't leave a former starter in the locker room when you bring a new guy in. You're trying to hype him up. So, they're trying to hype up Case. You can't have Trevor Siemian in there. It splits the locker room. Guys that feel loyal to their quarterback from last year. So the last thing you want to do is create a schism there. So you had to ship him out. And Minnesota, they've gone after Denver's leftovers last couple of years. Kyle Sloter, they brought him in, and now they're bringing Trevor in. If I'm a Minnesota fan, I'm basically praying, chanting, whatever it is you believe in, that Kirk Cousins is the healthiest quarterback ever.
When it comes to Denver at pick 5, are they now a candidate to move up because of the way the Jets are right at pick 6 and the Bills are positioned themselves to move up as well?
Well, they've always been a candidate to move up. If you find a quarterback you like, you got to move up to go get him. They're not going to be able to get to 1 because Cleveland's going to use that pick on a quarterback themselves. But, at 2, 3, and 4, those are opportunities to move up. You got several teams looking to move up. It's not just, the Jets. You've got Buffalo. You got Arizona. There are teams all looking to move up for a quarterback. Miami was in that mix until they restructured Tannehill, and I think a lot of that was leverage on Tannehill. They were really trying to leverage him in that deal to take give him some cap relief, take the money up front, lower his cap figure, and then kind of lock him in until 2019. So I think they're pretty much Miami's out of the first round quarterback race, but those other teams are definitely looking.
As far as moving up to pick 3 to the Indianapolis pick, what could a package to move up from pick 5 to pick 3 look like for Denver?
Well, you're probably talking. Obviously, you're swapping 3 and 5, and then you're adding in probably a future draft pick. I'd say probably next year's 2nd, and then maybe a 3rd from this year as well. You may find another pick in there as well. Moving up 2 spots is difficult to do, difficult to gauge because there's a premium once you get inside the top 5. But, at the same time, you're only moving a couple of spots. So you got to be careful with all that. I would look at that Bears structure from 3 to 2, what they gave up and kind of frame it around that.
With the Bills, we talk about potentially them moving up. Cleveland obviously taking a quarterback at 1. What would be the ideal situation for the Bills to maybe get to 2? I mean, what would they have to give up to get to 2 with the Giants?
Well, they'd have to give up all their first rounders this year, their first rounder next year, and probably a second rounder next year, and then maybe another pick this year, mid-round pick this year, or to get there.
Right. Yeah, and they definitely have the the capital to do it. They got 5 picks in the top 65. Cleveland at 1. Who's the quarterback you think they're going to take? Is it Sam Darnold or potentially Josh Allen?
I think it's Sam Darnold. I don't think that Josh Allen's ever truly been on their radar. I think it's Sam Darnold. I know some people have suggested Mayfield or Rosen or Allen or whatever, but Darnold's the guy they've been consistently after all year. They've consistently scouted him harder. I'll say this. As far as the pro days go, Mayfield's was today. Rosen's is coming up. They only sent Highsmith to those where they're sending a full contingent for Sam Darnold, so that should probably tip everybody off.
As far as the number 2 quarterback after Sam Darnold, is there a consensus around the league? Are the Jets, Broncos, Cardinals, and Bills, or maybe even the Giants targeting a specific player? Is it Rosen or is it Allen?
Well, I think everybody's got different guys they've got their eye on. Miami was in it for Mayfield. The Broncos like Mayfield. The Broncos also like Josh Allen a lot. The Arizona Cardinals, it would be Josh Allen. If you're the Buffalo Bills, it'd be either Rosen or Allen. If you're the Giants, it's Rosen. So I think a lot of that depends on fit and team and scheme and things like that. I don't think that just ranking guys 1 through 10 is really helpful because different guys have different fits and different schemes, and trying to rank them 1 through 10 just arbitrarily as a vanilla fit isn't really, isn't really honest relative to what their NFL potential or the way the NFL looks at them.
With Nate Solder, he just recently signed a huge contract with the Giants, 4-year deal, highest paid offensive lineman. Does this put them in a position where, Quentin Nelson obviously was always talked about at number 2 for the New York Giants? Is it potentially now quarterback and that's it? Or is Quentin Nelson still on the table, Saquon Barkley? What direction do they go?
Well, Quentin Nelson's definitely still on the table. That hasn't changed. I don't think it's going to be Saquon Barkley. We've seen a lot of hype coming off the combine, off those numbers. But you go back and look at the tape on Saquon Barkley, you see a guy who didn't even have that many 100-yard games rushing. He was held under 100 yards several times. I think he's more of a straight line guy than being as shifty and elusive as maybe some people think he is. I don't think he's I'm not convinced he's going to go in the top 7. I think he's going to fall to Tampa and they're going to take him. But I think a lot of people are looking at the combine and kind of elevating him higher than they should. Mm-hmm. We'll see how that takes out. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but that's just based on people I've talked to and everything else. I think that's another one of those guys where they're like, yeah, he's talented, but we're not taking him, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And generally guys like that tend to kind of fall a little further than people think.
Right. Well, talking with Ben Allbright, 104.7 FM in Denver, also AM 1340, very well-known source across the draft community with his insight. Moving forward away from the quarterbacks and kind of the top of the draft, let's talk Ndamukong Suh. Recently cut, chasing the money. We always know that. Where are some fits for him? Where are you kind of hearing, if anything, on where he could potentially go?
Well, there's, to a degree, every team in the league is interested. The problem is Suh is in it for the money. So I would suggest that you look for a team with a lot of money like the Cleveland Browns. The problem is the Browns are kind of stacked at defensive tackle. Mm-hmm. So that'd be an interesting fit. I'm not sure you want Ndamukong Suh is the culture guy you want there, but, again, that's an immense talent. You put him next to Myles Garrett and, oh boy, that's a seriously devastating line. Plus the other guys that they've got over there, Ogunjobi and Emmanuel Agba. Those are, and then you got, Nassib and Orchard as rotational guys. That's a pretty stout defensive line. So it's something you have to consider. I don't think he's a fit for some teams. Somebody asked about the Broncos, and I don't think he's a fit. Suh is really a one-gap penetrator where, the Broncos would be looking for a, two-gap nose, type guy. So I don't think he's a fit there. He would probably be a fit in Dallas, but they just don't have the cap space right now. The Raiders, he'd be a fit there as well. So he's going to have a market. We'll see where it shakes out.
When it comes to Tyrann Mathieu, recently released earlier today, is there a specific team that he might, be interested in first before other teams are interested in him? Like, could he go home or be interested in like New Orleans, having played at LSU or something like that?
I think so. I think there are teams he'd be interested in, and a lot of it's about fit. Kansas City is interested. I'm not sure that they've got the money and the means to do it. That would be an interesting pair, putting him alongside Eric Berry. And then I guess you could kind of move him around a little in a kind of a heavy nickel package. But, I think, and then he could kind of roam sideline to sideline and take over the vacated Derek Johnson spot too. I think that'd be a good fit for him. I don't know if they can make it work. There are guys out there he used to play with at LSU kind of recruiting him. Obviously, Landry's trying to recruit him to the Browns. I don't know if that fit alongside Demarius Randall and Julius Peppers. That just doesn't seem like a fit, but he's certainly being recruited out there.
Being that I'm a Detroit Lions guy, I've got to ask it because it happened today, and I got to do it for all my buddies that are Lions fans. Eric Ebron, cut from the Detroit Lions. A 25-year-old guy, they couldn't move him. Any idea to why they couldn't move him and why he got cut?
Well, nobody wanted to pay the price tag that they wanted. And for the Lions, there's, it's a lot of these times when guys get cut that you don't otherwise expect to be cut. It's because they then control how the cap stuff. It's not all accelerated at once, that kind of thing. So they can use a post-June 1 designation and kind of split the cap hit over 2 years. So there's advantages and disadvantages, to the situation. I just think that Detroit didn't get what they wanted in terms of offers and said, we'd rather just, add this to our compensatory formula and see what happens than try to play it out this way. Right.
And I bring it up because Denver just lost Virgil Green to the Chargers. Obviously, there's a little bit of a need there in Denver for a tight end. Is Eric Ebron a guy that could be on their radar down the line here?
Could be. I think personally, Selleck is more on their radar. Selleck has a relationship with Bill Musgrave dating back to Musgrave's Eagles days. So I think, he would understand the playbook a little bit better and know what to do. And there's not any concerns, about him on or off the field. So while Ebron would be an explosive weapon, I'm not quite sure that's what they want.
I have one last question when it comes to the Broncos. As far as, Vance Joseph maybe being kind of on the hot seat when it comes to remaining as head coach of the Broncos, do you think he's going to be more apt to start Case Keenum, or do you think he would be pressured into starting a quarterback to try to show that there's a little bit more potential and room for growth?
Do I think that he would be more apt to do what with Case Keenum?
To start Case Keenum rather than a rookie that they potentially take.
Case Keenum will be the starter.
Try to win right away.
Yeah, Case Keenum will be the starter either way. If he falters, there might be some pressure there. But Case Keenum will be the starter. And they feel like that they're a decent quarterback play away from the playoffs. I'm not sure I agree with that sentiment, but they do, and so that's the direction they're going. They're in it to win it. They don't view anything as a rebuild, rightly or wrongly. So, Case Keenum will be the starter, whether a quarterback's drafted at 5 or not.
I've got a couple of Twitter questions for you. At John Morrill 528, he asks, are the Ravens really in line to take Calvin Ridley at number 16, or could he get in the way, or who could get in the way of the 49ers?
Who could get in the way of the Niners getting in the way of the Ravens? I guess I'm a little confused by that question.
Yeah, I'm assuming he's saying, do you think the Ravens or the 49ers will take Calvin Ridley?
I would think the Ravens would be the more likely target. Ridley, the Bears were kind of eyeing him, but they were using him as a contingency plan if they didn't get their free agents, but they got the free agents they wanted. So outside Albert Wilson, which they ended up settling for Allen Robinson, so, is what it is. I think they got what they wanted. So I don't think so. I think the Ravens would be perfectly in line for Calvin Ridley.
Gotcha. And then for my buddy Bryce Rossler, he was asking about Mike Pennell. Is there any discussion of potentially where he could go? I'm assuming he's basing this off of the Detroit Lions. He's a free agent nose tackle.
Right. No, I don't have any sense on that. That's another one, like I said, that the Broncos may be interested in. Looking for a two-gapper there, but I don't know that I hadn't heard anything solid or concrete to give an indicator one direction or the other.
Okay. Talking with Ben Allbright, 104.7 FM in Denver, also AM 1340. The draft is right around 40 days away. Any kind of suspected trades that you got for us, or any kind of news or kind of whispers maybe that we've got?
Well, obviously the Buffalo, thing bears watching. You're going to see a trade up to 3 or 4, maybe even 2. The Colts want to trade back. So, most of the trades that are remaining are going to be draft position type trades. I don't think you're going to see too many player for player trades. You could see the Broncos move C.J. Anderson in a player for player trade. But if you do, I would suspect Miami, and I would suspect, maybe looking at Devontae Parker as a third receiver. But that's, those are things that are far from concrete, just kind of whispers swirling in the wind, if you will.
All right, awesome. Well, Ben, that's all I've got for you. Brad, you got anything else?
No, thank you for coming on, Ben, man. Go get some sleep.
Yeah.
I apologize for yawning, guys.
No,
That's
it's all good. Ben, where can we find you on Twitter for everybody?
You can tell all your fans to unfollow me at Allbright NFL. I've got too many of those already, so you guys are welcome to hit that unfollow button.
All right. Well, we appreciate you coming on with us. We'll talk to you soon, man.
Absolutely, guys.
That was Ben Allbright. For Brad Kelly, I am Russell Brown. This is Cover One, the podcast.